The Metropolitan Water District of Southern California was founded in 1928 under an act of the California Legislature to build and operate the Colorado River Aqueduct. Today, Metropolitan delivers water from the Colorado River and Northern California to its 26-member water agencies that serve more than 19 million people in Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, San Diego, and Ventura counties. Metropolitan has also taken significant steps over the past 3 decades to reduce the region's reliance on imported water, investing more than $1.5 billion in conservation and local resources. But climate change and the state's ongoing record drought are reminders that more needs to be done. Critics say Metropolitan has worked to improve its handling of employee misconduct at the agency. Some of these criticisms have also been documented in a recent state audit. In response, the Metropolitan Board of Directors and senior management have taken significant steps toward making things better. Individuals heading up 3 of Metropolitan's big initiatives to further the One Water concept while improving the agency's culture are here with us today to discuss what they see on the horizon. Today, we have with us Water Resources Manager Brad Coffey, who is the lead to Metropolitan's Pure Water Initiative. Liz Crosson, who is MWD's Chief Sustainability, Resiliency, and Innovation Officer, and Liji Thomas, who is Metropolitan's Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. So let's make a splash and get started. Brad, Liz, and Liji, thank you very much for being with us today. We're really looking forward to our conversation because you all bring such a depth and a perception and really a new look at not just Metropolitan, but really at the water industry and sort of where are we going, how are we doing it, and how do you steer this aircraft carrier, and how do you bring people along with us as we go? So I want to thank you for taking time and being with us for the conversation. And let me just kind of get right into it. I mean, I gotta, we sort of set this up with, there's a lot going on in water. There's a lot going on with droughts, which keeps it on the front page of the paper. There's lots of news coming out all the time, whether it's the governor's office and where we're going. But each of you sort of come with a really different perspective, but one that is, I use the term transformation. How are we transforming Metropolitan? How are we transforming the industry? How are we transforming even customer expectations? And so, Brad, I'm going to start with you because you have the longest tenure actually within the institution, but you're being asked to look at things in a very different kind of way. So how are you looking to address kind of what the current situation is and sort of what do we need to do to go forward and help your board members make informed decisions?
Thanks, Charlie. And you're exactly right that we're having to look at things in a new way. So I'll speak from the water resources side. And Southwestern North America is in a drought not seen in more than 1,200 years. And climate scientists have shown us that 40% of the impact of that drought, as measured by soil moisture deficit, results from human-caused activities. So it turned out that what otherwise would have been a bad drought is a near catastrophic one. So our number one priority is to boldly face this common enemy of climate change and provide Southern California reliable water supply for its 19 million residents and the 11th largest economy in the world. This severe water supply crisis exposed a weak underbelly of our infrastructure. Today, we simply can't move stored water to all areas in our service area, and that's unacceptable to us, and we're committed to transforming our system so that that doesn't happen in the future. Not being able to fully serve all areas of our service area is not what we're about.
So I take it then for those critics that would like to step in and say, well, maybe we got to get used to not having service on particular days or conserving our way out of this change, probably not okay.
We are committed as the family of Metropolitan to transforming how we move and import and deliver water supplies. This is a drought that's shown us, one, you can't conserve your way out of it. We're not talking about levels of conservation right now that we're experiencing that are efficient water use. This is really emergency conservation. And this demands bold action, both in terms of improving water efficiency, but improving storage, improving supply, improving the infrastructure that we can connect storage to the demand areas as well.
Liz, I'm going to go to you next because you sort of had this, and it doesn't trip off the tongue like it should. You know, the microcosm of LA City, like a nation state in its own right. So the work that you did with the mayor and bringing as big and important as Los Angeles is, bringing your perspective and your expertise to a place like Metropolitan. How do you see things similar? How do you see things as being different in what's your new role and how you looking at sustainability for a group the size of Metropolitan and that 19 million figure?
I see it very similarly. We're all facing the same threats, the same challenges, and we all need each other in order to achieve that, final outcome or that dynamic outcome that we're looking to achieve. And really, my goal here is to be part of this transformation. Metropolitan is, certainly at a crossroads in many ways. But what I've found since my time here is that it really is a culture of change that's already happening here at Metropolitan. There's a lot of forward thinking, and my priority is to really build on that momentum that the new general manager is leading, and to really move Metropolitan towards a sustainable business model. And that's something that I think that we across all of the world really need to start looking at, is how do we advance environmental stewardship and climate action while we actually provide tangible benefits to our communities and to our businesses that we serve. And so I am very excited to take kind of what I learned in the sustainability field within the city of Los Angeles and some of my prior work, and really apply that to this metropolitan world of water, and how we deliver water to 19 million people. And that will be, kind of reassessing our model, really trying to achieve that water resilience that Brad was talking about in a way that we minimize our impact on the environment, but not only minimize, but actually advance a world in which we can all thrive. And I think that Metropolitan, because of its scope, because of its scale, that it really has the opportunity to be a leading water utility in this space.
Coming from LA, I mean, I don't want to leave that for a moment, that theme. I mean, I tell people frequently, it takes a realization for some to say, oh, gee, I'm going to go talk to the mayor. Like, I'm going down to the coffee shop, but realizing Los Angeles and the environment that you came out of, you're really an international player there. It's not like you're dealing with just, some microscopic, tiny little element of the world. And I see Metropolitan then being very much the same, right? What you do at Metropolitan affects not just, the 19 million. Yeah, that's a lot of people within Southern California in the service territory, but you're really talking about water policy and action plans that really change the state and the Western, as Brad said, the Western United States.
Absolutely. I think that as we develop our sustainability and resiliency strategy at Metropolitan, that will serve as a platform for others. And that's just one of the threads. We are having a daily impact on all of California through our work in the Bay Delta and beyond. And we certainly are having an incredible impact on the West as we, look towards negotiating new contracts and relationships on the Colorado River with states and tribes and community organizations and the federal government. So Metropolitan really is a unique player in its ability to have such a widespread impact.
Liji, that's a great sort of jumping off point. I mean, it's brand new for a corporation, public entity to even have a chief diversity, equity, inclusion officer. You have a tremendous background in analytics and the business modeling, and done a lot of transformational work at a variety of levels, both public and private. Give me kind of your perspective. You come into an organization, a utility organization like the Metropolitan, that has that really traditional embedded sort of work culture. What kind of challenges and how do you see that transformation, or has that been as easy a transformation as Liz described, of finding people that are pushing out and are it's like embracing, these things almost automatically? Or is there something that you see here you've got to really like grind to get to?
So Charlie, I love your focus on transformation, because when DEI is done well, it is about culture transformation. And so I'm about 8 weeks in to my role.
And it's not done yet, Liji? Come on.
My entire past experience has been in corporate America. And so there's a lot about learning government, learning the way, Metropolitan is an established player, a thought leader in the water industry. And so are there challenges? Of course there's challenges, but anything worth doing, like being able to, Liz and I have had these conversations, and I have the good fortune of thinking about DEI issues and embedding DEI in the fabric of everything we're doing. And if you think about the business we're in, water, had a lot of thoughts recently about the human right to water. And if you believe that, and if you believe that all people have a human right to safe, clean, reliable water, you have to think about issues of access, and you have to think about issues of equity. And if we think about One Water and that we're part of an ecosystem that is responsible for delivering water, then you have to look at who traditionally has been left out. And I gotta tell you, Charlie, that the charge here is holistic. It's across the entire ecosystem. It's first and foremost the commitment to equity and inclusion to our own employees, to our suppliers, looking at contracting opportunities, looking at the diverse communities in which we serve. And so back to your point, are there going to be challenges here? Of course, because what you've got to do is really bring people along toward a North Star that's very tied to our mission of delivering water to 19 million residents across Southern California. I'll say this too, Charlie, because we get to do this work at Metropolitan, what we create here can be a model for other institutions. And that gets me excited, because it will not only impact our people and our stakeholders, but can have far-reaching consequences for other organizations as well.
Well, let me bridge back then to Brad and Liz, because also at the base, right? And I'm going to separate for the moment. There's sort of like 3 levels of, say, a Metropolitan. There's the policy-making level, that is the board of directors, and that is inherently a political body with, while they focus on one issue of delivering water, it's still a political process, and it's a big board that you have to gain consensus and a majority to get a policy decision. Then you've got your employee base, as you described, and expert professionals doing work every day to implement the policy directive. And then, Liji, as you described, then you've also got your customer base, which is both member agencies as well as the direct customers with whom they all serve. That those are the folks we tend to hear from then when it doesn't go so well at a policy meeting or at a board meeting. So, Brad, as the guy that's been around for a while, we've had this conversation. Water engineers were always like, I can design it, just get me the policy direction and the money to go build it, and we're all good. Has that changed? Do we need to change that? As Liji is talking about, how do you see that tension? And it's good tension, but how does that work in terms of then looking at this climate adaptation that we have to go through? Because you just can't do it the way we used to go about it.
I think that's a great point, Charlie. And it's been said for probably 80 years that the solutions they're not about engineering. It's about the institution and the organization and how we work together. So it's all about how do we come together for common purposes and execute appropriate policies for the region. And for me, that's about regional cooperation. And I'll just say one example about that. One of our member agencies, West Basin Municipal Water District, joined Metropolitan in the 1950s. And the person who studied the formation of West Basin Municipal Water District was an economist named Eleanor Ostrom. And Eleanor Ostrom studied why all the cities in the West Basin service area came together to join Metropolitan and to slow down the pumping of the groundwater supplies, which were pulling salt water into the region. Well, she ultimately became the first female to graduate with a political science degree from UCLA as a PhD. And she even eventually won the Nobel Prize in economics. So her PhD dissertation was about the formation of one of Metropolitan's agencies. So that had nothing to do with engineering. That had to do with engineering the way that we cooperate. And so in some ways, I think, well, it's already been thought through, it's already been done. We should be able to do that. But then I have to remember, it's as hard as getting a Nobel Prize. So that's the challenge that's before us.
Also, I'm seeing now a competition between the three of you for who's going to do their Nobel submittal on the new Metropolitan.
I'll submit Liz's application any day.
Well, Liz, I do want to I want to go back to your LA experience then for a minute, because I mean, as we're talking about this cooperative, tell me a little bit about, sort of, as you came out of LA, what would you consider to be sort of the best lesson learned that you can bring into Metropolitan, giving that, other than Brad, the two of you, E.G. and Liz, you guys are relatively new. It's not finished in 8 weeks. You got lots to do. But is there a lesson or an experience that really shined for you at LA that you think, you know what, I got to really hold on to that? Or if you're bold enough, Liz, I'll even ask the question, sometimes we learn when it just goes horribly wrong. And you can say, if I had that one to do over again, I probably would do it a little bit different.
Well, I'll have to think about that one. But on the first question, I think kind of teeing off something that Brad said about regional cooperation. I mean, it's a little bit different. I mean, the city itself feels like its own region in some ways, right? The city government is, almost 50,000 employees and over 30 different departments. So in the mayor's office where I sat in the sustainability office, it was our charge to implement the mayor's sustainability plan, his Green New Deal. And to do that, we needed the buy-in and cooperation of all of those, 35 city departments. And so that meant, really coordinating with the champions within each of those. And not only the people that were already kind of raising their hands, but really trying to find those people that were open and excited about this transformation that is ongoing in the city of LA. And so, I learned a lot about kind of building that kind of coalition and building that momentum with people that have been, working in the same place for 30 years, have been doing things the same way for 30 years, but are certainly, cannot be underestimated in their ability to innovate, because a place like Metropolitan in particular, there is a lot of innovation that goes on a daily basis to problem solve an extremely complicated and vast system. And so the creativity and innovation, and certainly the intellect and expertise, is there. And so I feel like what we now call the SRI office, Sustainability, Resiliency, and Innovation, is really here to help to facilitate that collaboration and to facilitate us moving all in that same kind of direction towards adapting to this changing environment. And so I really value the experience I got in the sustainability office in the city and how that can be applied here.
Well, let me ask this question then, because I mean, we've talked to Adele, and he's really good at the One Water. The board's now adopted the One Water formal. But I have to ask the question, we had the same conversation with the governor's office when he came out with the resiliency portfolio. It seemed that everybody had a different definition of resiliency. And so you really had to kind of grind down into get a base understanding so you could then work the different pieces of the portfolio. What does One Water mean to you, Liji?
One water to me means, Charlie, that we're thinking through the entire ecosystem of players that are involved in our mission to deliver water to 19 million residents across Southern California. It is about collaboration. It is about looking at access issues, DEI issues, who doesn't have equal access in being a part of our mission. It's breaking down silos. It's seeing that Brad and Liz's objectives are in concert with my objectives out of DEI. We're all marching to one beat, and we're galvanized by the charge we have. And again, Charlie, go back to, you think about what gets you out of bed in the morning, and nothing can be more important, especially the climate crisis is not coming. The climate crisis is here. And when we think about the sense of urgency that is needed to really address water distribution issues in Southern California, you have to take this concept of one water and ensuring that one water leaves no one behind, whether it's employees, communities we serve, tribal communities, etc. So one water is really a very holistic mindset shift that looks at ensuring that our charge and our mission at Metropolitan Water District of Southern California truly leaves no one behind, that we collaborate well, and that we realize that we're only as strong, any one of us, as our weakest link when it comes to really realizing our vision. So that's what One Water means to me.
And in your early tenure, is there, I know it's very early, but is there any group or segment of the population, segment of the workforce that has just kind of screamed out and said, you know what, we got this sort of big gaping hole here? Or do you see sort of getting to that holistic one water sort of vision on all of those different aspects? Is this a fine tuning, or is there like some really monumental shift or turning of the dial that we need to make?
So sure, there's lots of folks screaming, but I think a leader coming in has to, first charge is to listen, and to listen well, and to understand what is the screaming about. I think you mentioned earlier in the setup about the state audit, about some of the things that we know may be opportunities for us. And my first charge in my first 90 days, Charlie, is to really listen well to all our constituents. So I'm talking to board members, I'm talking to my peers, I'm talking to employees, our employee resource groups, our labor unions, and we can't boil the ocean, but if we can pick the 3 to 5 things that are going to make the most impact in terms of equity and inclusion issues, and really tie that in and to our strategic objectives, then that's definitely part of the mindset in terms of how we drive DEI for Metropolitan.
Brad, you're again, I'm going to say you've got the water molecule piece, at least in our working relationship. What does one water mean to you, and how do you see that sort of fitting into this, modified, the new direction, meeting the climate, not the new, but the meeting the climate crisis?
Thanks, Charlie. And first of all, I just, so appreciate what Liji and Liz bring to the table, because it improves my thinking. If I come away from a discussion with Liji and Liz, correcting some thought that I have, well, that just means I'm a little bit wrong than I was before sitting down with them. So the mission of Metropolitan Water District, and I'll probably have to paraphrase here, but is to provide the service area with adequate and reliable supplies of high quality water in an economically and environmentally sensitive manner. So that sounds a lot like One Water, but we've really been gravitating towards one definition that's was developed as part of a Water Research Foundation project that Cindy Paulson led. And its definition is that One Water is an integrated planning and implementation approach to managing finite water resources for long-term resilience and reliability, meeting both community and ecosystem needs. So that first part of it about providing water supply reliability and recognizing that it's finite water resources, I would say that's deep within Metropolitan's DNA. We can't not do something about that. However, after the comma, we have to consider meeting community and ecosystem needs. It requires our imagination. It requires us to view Metropolitan from how other people view them. It requires us to understand the needs and motivations and values of our diverse service area. So to me, it's largely what we've done, but with this transformation following the comma, looking at meeting the community and the ecosystem needs.
But Liz, again, I got to come to you, right? Again, as Brad just described, one of the great advantages of the Metropolitan Service Center area is, 19 million people. It's big and it's diverse. Challenges, it's really big and diverse. And you came from a big, diverse place, but now you're into a bigger, more diverse place. What does One Water mean to you? And you also have that experience of also dealing with, even on the power sector, transportation sector, sort of what do all of those things have in common to transform, that deliberate term, transform the area in which we live and have a chance to play and prosper. And how do you bring that, and how do you see the definition now that you can cheat off the papers from these other two?
Well, I certainly agree with what both of them have said. I think, Brad has been thinking about this in terms of Metropolitan for a long time and has, some really well-developed thoughts about how we move forward on a One Water approach. And so I feel like, that definition of what it is certainly, something that I agree with. And I think a lot of the points that Liji made about how we achieve that through being inclusive, ensuring that it's an equitable process, ensuring that we're breaking down silos. And that's what I think is so brilliant about these two new offices of Sustainability, Resiliency, and Innovation, and DE&I, is that they really are already breaking down silos, because what Adele Haj-Khalil, the general manager, has charged us to do is to put those lenses on everything that we do across the board. And so that really helps us to develop, One Water, One Metropolitan, where all of us are integrating together through these common lenses. And so I often also think about One Water in terms of the result. And the result to me is really about a resilient agency and a resilient community, a resilient service area and region beyond. And that is a place where not only are we providing reliable water at any cost, but we're doing it in a way that is resilient to the changing climate and is a place where people can actually adapt and then thrive. And I think that that's really what we are looking to achieve through our One Water planning, is to build in the kinds of efficiencies and flexibilities and creativity and innovation that is long defined to Metropolitan, but is really having to step up to this increasing challenge in a way that's going to result in what is going to be real water resilience. And I think that is the outcome we're all striving for.
So let me ask this of all three of you. Liji, I'm going to start with you then. I mean, these are big, I characterize it like trying to steer an aircraft carrier, right? You can pull that, to the hard right, but it's going to take a while for that ship to turn. What kind of timing, what kind of pace, what kind of expectation management do you think we should be going through, whether it's customers, whether it's the policymakers or employees, about, what's the pace of change? How quickly can we institute these things? You described the importance of first listening, and listening very well. I will tell you that, the thing that I walked away from the interview we did, our inaugural interview with Adele, which I found this to be the great challenge for anybody within Metropolitan. You're going to work really hard to keep up because he's everywhere and he's at such high energy and it's, but as far as he gets and as fast as he moves, there's still a pace of change in people's ability to get to the table, to accept the change, to make the deformed decisions, and then to take the physical next step. How do you see that transformation, the timing and milestones, and how do we kind of keep people on board and moving people in a forwardly direction?
I think, Charlie, that so clearly we've got to have some short-term wins. We've got to address, there are some things that I think quite honestly are low-hanging fruit for us. We've got to address them. But then there is a longer term, again, this is done well. It is ultimately about culture transformation that does not happen overnight. And there is a part of setting the vision here, bringing other people along. There's that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And so how do we even get to, who do we want to be in terms of DEI? Who do we want to be in terms of the largest wholesaler of water in the country? And then can we all, can we break down those silos? Can we build coalitions so that we all own the vision of who we want to be at Metropolitan? And that's going to take some time, Charlie. And that culture transformation is looking at everything from, contracting opportunities, hiring process, promotion process, et cetera. It's going to take some time. But so I think there's two parts of this. There's short-term wins. There's creating a DI strategic plan, 3 to 5 to 10-year plan, whatever it looks like. And then there is the longer term. 5 to 10 years from now, I hope we look back on today and say this, and working with great colleagues like Liz and Brad and so many others. It's the start of a cadre of leaders that come together to say that realizing our mission is so important that nothing short of access to opportunity, equity, and inclusion, really solving and figuring out how to make our way through this climate crisis, nothing short of this is acceptable under our leadership. And so, yes, it's going to be a journey for us, Charlie, and hopefully we'll have successes along the way that'll continue to keep people inspired on the journey.
Brad, how about you? Because I know you feel it. I feel it when, every day on the front page of the paper, it's climate crisis, heat crisis, drought crisis. And every time you use the term crisis and there's that elevated anxiety, it's do something now, got to go now. And I know that, like the energy sector, right, to not have water one day is just antithetical to everything that we do in serving customers. How do you kind of come at this, your perspective on the transformation, again, the crisis at hand and the pace of change?
Thanks, Charlie. One of the things that I rest on is that there's so many capable employees at Metropolitan, that the operations is running, that there are people watching the store, and that allows us to attack these problems from many different directions. One of the things I really appreciate about our general manager, Adel Hajkhalil, is that he has this ability to cast a vision for how he thinks the world should be. And then he allows us to figure out how to get there. And so that's super encouraging to me. That's super empowering to me. But we are managing an emergency, managing a drought emergency, planning for water supply for the region for, say, periods of time of 25 years, and then trying to envision a future. It's been described in the news recently as it's like playing a yo-yo as you're going up an escalator. So we know that the yo-yo of drought cycles, wet and dry years, will continue to be impacting us, but climate change is taking us up this escalator. And we have to not be so focused on the yo-yo that we miss that we're on an escalator. And I just feel that we're able to bring the region together to face this common enemy of climate change. And in 10 years, that we'll say we're stronger as a region, we're more resilient as a region, we can weather more as a region. And we've got plans, concrete plans in place in order to achieve that.
I mean, Liz, again, that's a nice transitional point, right? Pressure, 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 go, go, go. But everything we're talking about here is 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the planning. I know for us, because we're in the middle of some budget negotiations with the folks at the state and getting, with all of those needs pulling at policymakers, getting this issue of infrastructure and water infrastructure and resiliency in place and the ability to finance all those things, make the policy decisions and the funding that goes with it. It's so hard when they want to do immediate results and immediate gratification. And we're really talking about financing the next 50 to 100 years. What do you see as the pace of change?
It's complicated. And we do have some very long-term goals. The board recently approved a climate action plan that strives to be carbon neutral by 2045. So that has that sort of longer term outlook. I would predict that gets pushed up as climate change intensifies. But we have to, at the same time, like Liji said, we need to identify these short-term, clear, quick wins and near-term priorities that we can achieve. And there are lots of them. And so I think that, we have to just kind of think about it in terms of how they all work together and doing it step by step. And I think that, Adele does create space for his team to think about how these things all work together. So, similarly to how Brad defined it, I feel empowered with my colleagues at Metropolitan to figure this out together and to really kind of bite off each piece one at a time and think about, we have emergency drought conditions we have to respond to. We have a Colorado emergency we need to respond to. But we also need to think about our long-term resilience, and we need to have some principles and policies in place to ensure that we're not going to create sort of unintended consequences by acting too quickly, which is also a concern. So we definitely need to think about the climate ramifications of every step of the way, whether that's, energy use or just water availability. And I think that's what's so exciting about Metropolitan really turning regionally and locally at developing some drought-proof water supplies in the Regional Water Recycle Project, or what is now named Pure Water Southern California. And so that to me is a big shift that is really going to ensure that we are moving on a track that is going to take us into that, next phase.
Well, let me use that. And Liji, you said it, setting those different milestones, get some short-term wins as you go longer. So let me go kind of, I'll call it midterm, say 10 years. Tell me your perspective. So what do you think Metropolitan, not you hope will be known for, but what do you think Metropolitan will be known for in 10 years?
The most inclusive, equitable, socially and environmentally conscious public institution in the world that is worthy of the public trust and realizes its mission to deliver water reliably to 19 million residents across Southern California.
Brad, I know you're going to be here in 10 years. So what's it going to look like?
Well, what I hope 10 years from now is that we can all say that we rose to this challenge of this drought today. And that we also worked with the state and the federal government, recognizing the importance of Southern California to California as a whole and to the United States as a whole. We hold this responsibility to prod California into doing the right things for good water management in California, as we hold the same responsibility for doing that same thing for the Bureau of Reclamation and the Secretary of Interior, the Interior Department. I think in a perfect world, we'd say we came together as a region to face this common enemy of climate change, and we're much better off for it.
Liz, assuming you're going to be here getting your 10-year pin from Metropolitan or running the EPA or something similar to it by then, what do you see as that 10-year window? What do you see as really being something not just you think, but you really driving to make sure happens in that 10-year horizon?
Well, you know, when Metropolitan was founded, it was purely as an importer of water. And I think that it has already transformed so much to look local, to look at its environmental responsibility. And I think in 10 years, you will see a transformed agency that would have responded to this challenge and built resilient infrastructure that can withstand and ensure that our businesses and communities can continue to thrive when it comes to their water supply. And I think I also see Metropolitan really leading nationwide when it comes to a water agency that is leading on addressing the water energy nexus and doing so delivering water in a way that is conscious of our carbon footprint and actually moving the region towards renewable energy by its own choices, by what it does on our facilities, by building on our lands, and really setting an example of how we can do what we do, but do it within, you know, the limitations of the climate.
And I'm going to ask this question only because you came from, you know, from the city and dealt with this from the DWP standpoint on the energy side, and I know this is one of those expertise you have. You know, we sort of shifted the energy business into more of a transmission distribution kind of a situation, not so much the fully integrated. Do you see a similar kind of shift in water where Metropolitan is really the facilitator, or truly to that sort of like womb to tomb sort of, you know, wholesaler, supply reliability, all of those things as the owner and operator? I mean, that's probably an unfair question, but do you see a similar kind of modification where others sort of can do things local or sub-regionally, but then Metropolitan's role is to make sure that it is facilitated and, as we say, done equitably and everybody is considered as part of the larger whole?
You know, I think that in the vein of One Water, I really see the future of our water system as in partnership and collaboration with our member agencies. I mean, part of the reason that we are truly a cooperative, and part of the reason that these smaller agencies formed Metropolitan is because they needed the infrastructure and the support that Metropolitan provides. And so what I would like to see is Metropolitan, in partnership with its member agencies, building out those sources of water, those energy projects, co-investing in, you know, anything from EV infrastructure to reservoirs and recycled water projects. I think we have a real opportunity to supply ourselves and our communities in a way that's responsible and resilient.
Oh, there's so many places we could go with individual projects, and I would love to have that conversation. But I have to sort of kind of wind us out with this question, because I always like to put you all in charge. You know, you have the magic wand for the day. So I do want to then just kind of ask, and Liji, I'm going to start with you. Give your constituency, employees, your customers, your fellow managers, your board of directors, what is the message of hope that you want to give to them about what's coming and where they can play an active role?
You know, I think Brad and Liz touched on this a little bit, but you know, it's that we could come together at this really critical time and solve arguably this is an existential crisis for Southern California, but that we could come together with the same holistic One Water mindset, and that we could actually solve this issue for Southern California, and create, whether it's a national or a global model for how a public institution achieves this. So there is hope. There are challenges, Charlie, but there's also an enormous amount of hope. What is that? I believe it's a Margaret Mead quote: "Never doubt that a group of committed, dedicated citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." And so with the resources, the charge, the amazing employees, and the track record that Metropolitan has. As enormous as the challenges are, the hope is that not only can we achieve this, but it is a very worthy mission to pursue.
Brad, you're in charge. What's the message of hope you want to give to your colleagues, the public, and your board of directors and others?
Well, first, to my colleagues, I would just say, I've kind of worked through a number of Simon Sinek's books about Know Your Why. And for me, I supply water to sustain human flourishing. And that connects me with everything that I do today. So I think number one for the water industry in Southern California and throughout the West is to be bringing on a capable, diverse workforce that can solve the problems of the future. That's a legacy that I think that Metropolitan would like to help move forward for Southern California. So, because I like to work on problems that aren't going to be solved in my lifetime. Climate change is one of them. And so we want to bring in the next generation. To our member agencies, I offer the hope of working together, that what needs to be done, that we'll join forces and that we'll work towards common solutions. And to the public, the Metropolitan Water District has your back. We've got this. We're committed to solving this so that you can depend on your water at your tap every day.
All right, Liz, your message of hope. Take us home.
Well, this is a really good one for me because it's one that I personally have been working on. Being in the environmental field and climate field, I can be a bit doom and gloom. But I will say that has shifted a lot since I came to Metropolitan. And I think that the hope is really in the fact that the solutions exist, that we know what they are, and that new ones are coming to us every day. The fact that, I have the innovation part of Metropolitan now in this office, and I get to hear and experience all the new ideas and innovations that are available when it comes to, clean energy or saving water, or our processes, or the way we address, our employee issues. I mean, it is incredible, a number of solutions that are out there. And so to me, these problems are completely solvable with the capable people that we have within Metropolitan and around us. And so I find a lot of hope and certainly inspiration from that sort of discovery since I've been here.
Well, Liji, Brad, and Liz, I have to tell you, we only plagiarize here at the Southern California Water Coalition from the very best. And so I'm taking a lot away from today, but our mission is to educate, to advocate. So to the extent that we can just simply tell it how it is, and then allow people the tools to take control and to contribute themselves, we think brings everybody to that table. And that's kind of our mission and how we go about trying to bring people along on these very complicated, sometimes seems really vexing issues. But the expertise that the three of you bring and the role you play at Metropolitan, tremendous. And I want to thank each of you for being a part of today's conversation. We will take this forward. We will integrate it. And it's corny to say, but yeah, we're going to make a better place in Southern California to live, work, and to play as a result of it. So I want to thank you all for being with us today. These are important messages and restoring credibility within our public sector at a time when lots of folks like to throw stones at the public. It's a dedicated, committed profession that we're all in. And I want to say thank you to you for being a part of that. To our audience, I want to say stay with us. We'll be back with some final thoughts in just a minute. Well, thanks for joining us on What Matters Water TV and Podcast. If you like today's discussion, go wherever you download your podcast and give us that 5-star rating. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. That will help us build our presence in this new world and this new format. If you're interested in helping sponsor this program, please reach out to us at socalwater.org and send us a message. And as we close out today's show, I leave with you this challenge. Be a part of the conversation. Be a part of the solution. At the Southern California Water Coalition, we educate to advocate. So as public policy leaders have difficult choices, we help them make informed decisions. Thank you for being with us. We will see you again next time on What Matters Water TV and Podcast.